Hi guys, this is Pankaj and I'm going to teach you punctuation. Punctuation is tested on the SAT, the PSAT and the ACT, but it's also important for clear written and spoken communication. Mispunctuating a sentence might play havoc with your life. It might take somebody's life. How? You'll see momentarily. Let's eat grandpa. Let's eat grandpa? Can you really eat your grandpa? Look at this one. It should be, let's eat grandpa. In the absence of a punctuation, in the first sentence, you might end up eating your grandpa. Mispunctuation can finish off your grandpa. So beware. Second one, we're going to learn to cut and paste kids. Do you really intend to cut and paste kids? No. It should be, we're going to learn to cut and paste kids. There should be a comma here. In the absence of the comma, you will end up cutting and pasting the kids. Mispunctuation can rob someone of their children. So beware. Interests include cooking dogs. What? Cooking dogs? That's diabolical. Do you really want to cook dogs? No. It should be interests include cooking and then dogs and then shopping and then dancing and then reading and then watching movies. You surely don't want to cook dogs, do you? This person's intention is so sinister. The one who is saying this sentence, his intention is so sinister, so evil. He wants to cook the dog and eat that. That's disgusting. A woman without her man is nothing. A professor wrote this sentence on the board and asked the students to punctuate it. The boys and the girls did it differently. A woman without her man is nothing. It came from a male chauvinist. A male chauvinist is the one who believes that women should be governed by men. And women did it like this. They were feminists. A woman without her man is nothing. Punctuation can stand for male chauvinism as well as feminism. Both are absolutely right, but both have different meanings. Health issues: headache, dizziness, nausea, inability to eat, diarrhea. What? You sure want to eat diarrhea? No. It should be headache, dizziness, nausea, inability to eat, and then diarrhea. There should be a comma here. Wrong punctuation can make you eat. That's disgusting. Rachel Ray finds inspiration in cooking her family. Man, cooking her family and her dog. Finds inspiration in what? In cooking her family and her dog. Really? It should be, Rachel finds inspiration in cooking her family and her dog. Wrong punctuation can destroy your family and your dog. So beware. Now look at this one. A panda walks into a cafe. He orders a sandwich, eats it, then draws a gun, fires 2 shots in the air. Why? Asks the confused waiter as the panda makes towards the exit. The panda produces a badly punctuated wildlife annual and tosses it over his shoulder. I'm a panda, he says at the door. Look it up. What did he toss over to him? Well, it was a badly punctuated wildlife annual. It was a magazine, an annual magazine on wildlife. It was badly punctuated. So he did talk about pandas. And he says, the panda says, I'm a panda. And look it up. I'm a panda, look it up. Look it up in the magazine. The waiter turns to the relevant entry and sure enough, finds an explanation. Explanation for the panda's firing. There it was written, panda, large black and white bear-like mammal, native to China, eats, shoots and leaves. Here is a comma. The panda ate a sandwich, he shot and he left. So this comma is wrong. It should be eats and no comma here, shoots and leaves. A panda eats, shoots and leaves. A comma here means he eats and then he does the shooting, he shoots and then he leaves. That's wrong punctuation. Where does it come from? It comes from a very celebrated book, a very famous book, written by Lean Trust. The book's name is this: Eats, Shoots and Leaves, the Zero Tolerance Approach to Punctuation. Punctuation was, it is sad to say, invented a very long time ago. Punctuation was, it is sad to say, invented a very long time ago. Even more frustrating, it has remained with us ever since. So some people are really frustrated with punctuation because they can't really put them correctly. The SAT and the ACT students may also find punctuation frustrating. But the following lesson is going to make punctuation easy for you. Quick punctuation rules. Well, the good news is the SAT and the ACT do not test all the punctuation marks. The following are the ones that are predominantly tested on these exams: comma, semicolon, colon, dash, apostrophe. These 5 punctuation marks are usually tested on these exams. Let's study them one by one. Where to use them, how to use them. The first one is comma. Commas are used too. There are four main uses of comma. The first one, separate 3 or more items in a list. Separate 3 or more items in a list. For example, apples, bananas and oranges. Yes, you have to put a comma before and as well. Beware, you have to do it. Separate 2 or more independent clauses with a FANBOYS, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so conjunction. For example, now what is this? Separate 2 or more independent clauses. What is an independent clause? An independent clause is a complete sentence on its own. It can stand independently of the other clause. So, we use comma to separate 2 or more independent clauses when there is what? With a FANBOYS conjunction. Means there could be for, there could be for, there could be and, there could be nor, there could be but, there could be or, there could be yet, and there could be so. For example, my mom was going to pick me up from school, but my dad came instead. So, my mom was going to pick me up from school is an independent clause. It can stand alone. Even if you don't add the rest of the sentence, then it is right. It is completely meaningful. The second one, my dad came instead. Even this is completely meaningful. It makes sense. So, these are 2 independent clauses and there is this FANBOY conjunction. So, we use comma with the FANBOY conjunctions. Next one, set off introductory information from the rest of the sentence. Set off, separate introductory information from the rest of the sentence. For example, on the morning of my birthday. When? On the morning of my birthday. So this is what? Introductory information, and it is to be separated from the rest of the sentence. In fact, it's just a phrase here. On the morning of my birthday, I received lots of gifts. The next use is this, to set off non-essential descriptive information within or at the end of a sentence. To set off or to separate what? Non-essential descriptive information. The sentence makes complete sense without that as well. So, to set off, to separate non-essential descriptive information within or at the end of a sentence. For example, let's see. I ran across the floor, which was painted with different colors, to meet Jerry. Now, what is the real sentence? I ran across the floor to meet Jerry. And this, which was painted with different colors, it's a non-essential descriptive piece of information. Or, I ran across the floor to meet Jerry, who greeted me with a high five. Now, who greeted me with a high five? It's a non-essential piece of information. Semicolons are used to join 2 independent clauses without the use of FANBOYS conjunction. So, if you want to use semicolon, you cannot have for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, etc. as conjunctions. The sentences on both sides of a semicolon must be complete, standalone sentences. I have already told you what independent clauses are. An independent clause can stand on its own. It has its own subject, it has its own verb, it has its own predicate, it does not need anything else. For example, I entered the competition early. I entered the competition early and then I decided to withdraw a week later. I entered the competition early is an independent clause. It does not depend on any other clause for meaning. The second one, I decided to withdraw a week later. It is also an independent clause. It does not depend on any other clause for meaning. And this, however, is an adverb. It's not one of those FANBOYS conjunctions. It's not one of them. And therefore, it can be here, and yet these two clauses can be independent clauses. So, we'll use a semicolon here. Why this comma here? Well, to separate a however too. Teddy loves stuffed bears. His collection includes 54 specimens. So, Teddy loves stuffed bears, it's an independent clause, and then his collection includes 54 specimens is another independent clause. To set them off, to separate them, we're using a semicolon. The next one is colon. Colons are used to introduce and or emphasize a short phrase, quotation, explanation, example, or list. What is it used for? Well, it's used to introduce a short phrase or to emphasize a short phrase or to introduce a quotation or to introduce some explanation or example or a list. For example, look at this one. The greatest obstacle to completing my homework was imminent. What was the obstacle? Well, it's given here. It is being illustrated in the finale of Grey's Anatomy. Second example, Lincoln's Gettysburg Address began with the following preamble. Here we have colon, 7 years ago. Here a quotation is being introduced. Let me repeat it for you. Colons are used to introduce what? Short phrases, quotations, explanations, examples, or lists. Dashes are used to, the first use is this, to indicate a hesitation or a break in thought. For example, I saw John the other day and he looked great. No, it was actually Greg, not John. Here we have what? There is a hesitation or a break in thought. And so we're using what? Dash. The next one, set off an explanatory example or list from the rest of the sentence. To separate an explanatory example or a list from the rest of the sentence. For example, many facets of Jill's personality, among them empathy, respect, and kindness, make her a great friend and human being. So here we have many facets of Jill's personality make her a great friend and human being. But among them, empathy, respect, and kindness. We have these three examples of the facets of Jill's personality. And so we are separating or setting them off by dashes. The next one, apostrophes are used to. Used in what? To indicate possession. For example, Bob's book. My friend's phones. Here, friends is plural. There are more than one friend and therefore friends' phones. The apostrophe has to be after S. The three students' bags. Well, three students. There are three students. It's more than one. And therefore, apostrophe should be after S. Not the three students' bags. If you put apostrophe before S, it would be wrong. Second use of apostrophe is to create contractions, short forms. How do you create contractions? Well, by using an apostrophe. For example, there's the rabbit. Instead of writing there is the rabbit, we are writing there's the rabbit. That's the rabbit. So, I is removed from here and then apostrophe is put instead. That's the rabbit. It's important. It means it is important. Not it's important. Well, it's would be wrong here. It's is a possessive thing. Its leg is broken. There its is possessive. Whose leg? Its leg. This table's leg is broken. Who's in charge? Who's in? It means who is. Contraction of who is. So now we'll do some real solid questions from the actual SAT writing and language section. The first one, the transportation planner's job might involve conducting, etc. Well, here the transportation planner's job might involve. Well, should there be a comma here? And should there be an apostrophe here? Oh yes, planner's job. There is a possessive case and therefore this apostrophe is right. How about this comma? Well, the transportation planner's job might. Well, it's the subject. The transportation planner's job is the subject. Then we have might involved as the verb. Well, do we put comma before a verb and after the subject? No. The students of my class are going there. Should I put a comma after the students of my class? No. The students of my class are going there. I should not, nor should it be here. Planner's job, this apostrophe is right, but this comma is not right. Since it's not right, we eliminate option A. Let's check the second one. Planner's job. Here comma is removed. This is the right answer. Planner's job, well, this comma is wrong, and then planners, from here the apostrophe is missing again. So two mistakes. Planner's job. So here the comma is gone, that's fine, but then planners, the apostrophe is also gone with it, and therefore it's wrong. So the right option is option B. For many positions in the field, a master's degree is required. A master's, can you notice it? A master's degree. Here this apostrophe, shouldn't it be before S? It's just one degree, it's not so many degrees. So, well, what should be the answer? Well, no change, master's degree is required should not be the answer obviously. Master's degree is required, well, this is right. Master apostrophe S degree is required, master's degree. There is just one degree, a degree. If you say master's degree, there is no apostrophe and that's wrong. If you say master's degrees, well, how about this A? We already have A there, therefore it has to be one degree. So, option B is right. Master's degree is required. More and more of our lives are mechanized, and at some point we have to start wondering, what's the limit of that mechanization? Many factory workers in the 19th century thought their jobs were safe, but we know now that they were wrong. Now, should there be a punctuation here, or it's alright? If you think it's alright, then it should be no change. I believe, well, there should be a punctuation here, there should be a comma before but. Because we now know that they were wrong is an independent clause, and many factory workers in the 19th century thought their jobs, that's another, their jobs were safe is another independent clause. We have two independent clauses, and then there is a conjunction. It's one of the FANBOYS conjunctions. And if you have one of the FANBOYS conjunctions to join two independent clauses, what do? Obviously, you put a comma before that. There should be a comma before but. Do we have a comma there? Somewhere? Yeah, we're safe. But we know. This one is right. Option B is right. Here it's wrong because we don't use a semicolon when there is one of the FANBOYS conjunction. And then full stop is obviously wrong. We need to continue the sentence. So the right answer would be B. We're safe, comma, but we know. Sure, a machine is obviously better at, say, welding huge pieces of steel together. Well, here, sure, a machine is obviously better at, say, welding huge pieces of steel. Now, what is interrupting the flow of this sentence? Well, is obviously better at welding huge pieces of steel should be the sentence. Better at what? Better at welding huge pieces. But this say is interrupting the flow of the sentence. So it should be separated by what? Obviously by commas. So do we have one here like, oh yeah, C is there. Better at, say, welding. Okay, this say is non-essential piece of information here, non-essential. It wasn't really required. So, but this is wrong because there's no comma here. Two commas have to separate this say because it's breaking the flow of the sentence. So option C is obviously the right option. These questions may seem overly pessimistic or overly optimistic depending on your point of view. However, some recent studies have been truly remarkable. Now let's read this again. These questions may seem overly pessimistic or overly optimistic depending on your point of view. Well, this is an independent clause. And here also, some recent studies have been truly remarkable. It's another independent clause. And this, however, is not one of those FANBOYS conjunctions. And if it is not one of those FANBOYS conjunctions, obviously we'll use a semicolon to separate two independent clauses. And therefore, there should be no change. Putting a comma would be wrong because that's used only with one of the FANBOYS conjunctions. Again, putting comma would be wrong. Your point of view. Here it should be, it's wrong. It should be your, Y-O-U-R. It should not be Y-O-U apostrophe R. We need a possessive your here. Your. We don't need the contracted form of you are. This is the contracted form of you are. And we just want a possessive your. Y-O-U-R. So, we have the right option A.